folks. I'm Sean Crabtree.
And I'm Cameron Bailey.
Welcome into Growth Profits.
Coming to you live each week.
We don't want to change the way you do business.
We want to change the way you're thinking about your business.
We want you to have better results, happier clients, and make more money.
Let's get it started.
All right, welcome into the show. I have a question. How many of you listening or watching right now could honestly say that all the relationships on your team are maximized in such a way that implementation of systems, that making requests, getting support, and ultimately taking care of the patient at the highest level are totally in order?
I would say that 80% of the practices out there, none of those practices are taking control of what the opportunities on their team can be.
In terms of their relationships with each other?
Absolutely, in terms of the relationships with each other.
So, in other words, if I hear what you're saying, 80% of the teams that you've experienced, their relationships are not at the highest level, and therefore, somehow, some way, systems are not being implemented at the highest level. People are not comfortable to make requests. Support is not happening on a high level, which ultimately means that patient care is not where it needs to be. That's
exactly.
awful.
Everybody thinks that, just because I got a problem with you or a situation with you, that the patients, that's totally different.
They don't see it.
Yeah, patients don't see that. Which we all know, the patients can smell everything that's going on in the practice, and they know if there's a little bit of drama. They know if there's a little bit of thickness in the air, right?
And so what happens? Everybody steps around and acts like it's not an issue.
Yes. So as your team, the question is your team not getting along? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it, Sean Crabtree?
And that's what we're talking about today, taking control. Taking control. So there was a question asked just this week, what do I do? What do I do? I got two staff members who are not getting along, and it's sort of like polarizing the whole team. Guys are ready to come to blows. And what do I do? I mean, do I just fire them both? They're good at their job, right? So what do I do? Well, here's the answer. Take control. And we're going to talk about that specifically. Taking control, and you really got two opportunities. One is, what do you do right now to fix the situation?
In the moment.
But then the bigger question is, what do I do to make sure that we as a group are never in this place again? It's about taking control.
All you guys out there that have had this situation where your team members are not getting along, there's drama in your practice, this one is mad at that one's mad at this one. If you allow that to fester and you don't address it, you're not taking control at all, and therefore it's becoming even thicker. I can think of an example with a team that I know of right now. And it's not that the people on the team are good or bad or they're mean people. It's because the atmosphere is so thick in this practice because everybody's thinking it is right and wrong, good or bad.
Because there's no leadership.
Because there's no leadership.
And nobody's taking control.
Nobody's taking control and making the expectations clearly defined. So what happens is, you've got this person over here. As soon as I come in and I say, "Hey, how you doing? Good morning," they think, "Oh, yeah, right. Maybe for you."
Get attitude.
Because I got an attitude. And when I got an attitude, then I'm not going to be able to communicate about what's working and what's not in my area or in the practice.
But what do you say to those doctors who are listening to this and going, you know what, I tell my people to leave it in the parking lot?
Yeah. I mean, you can't leave it in the parking lot. Your business life and your personal life, all of that is just life. So if you think that I can turn a switch and I can be on in front of the patients, that's just not going to work. Everything in a dental practice is dependent on everything else. Every area is dependent on everything else, right? The schedule is dependent on your hygienist to reappoint the patients. It's dependent on your treatment acceptance from your operative department.
Depending on the financial arrangements.
Depending on the financial arrangements. Everything. Marketing is dependent on, everything at the front desk that's going on. So the phone from the intake calls, right? So everything is dependent on everything. So if I've got a problem with somebody else on my team, if I got a challenge with somebody else on my team, it's absolutely affecting areas of the practice. There's no way around it. You can put your head in the sand and say, oh, maybe not, I leave it in the parking lot, but.
So it's about taking control.
Yes, it's about taking control.
So what are you telling me today? I mean, are you telling that, are you saying that, what if both of them are really good at their job? Are you saying I should fire them? I mean, I have no grounds to fire them.
I mean, why does everybody think that everything is so stringent? Oh, you gotta be this way. I gotta fire you. Have a communication, man. Talk to somebody. Why don't you just address it? Take control.
Take control.
All you gotta do is talk. Open your mouth. When people are walking and somebody's got an attitude with somebody else, mm-hmm. You don't just let them walk by and then whisper about them when they're gone. Man, she was being a you-know-what today. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to address it.
Okay, so take control.
Yeah, it's a cry for help. It's a cry for help.
But let me play the other side of this for just a second, okay? So, but what if I don't see the ability to take control because maybe I don't see that I have grounds to fire someone, and so therefore I have no recourse.
I mean,
you see what I'm asking? You see what I'm saying?
No, I mean, I'm not talking about firing somebody. I'm talking about
but there has to be an ultimate consequence. In other words, if I'm going to take control, then by definition, because we have an issue, then I probably have not taken control up to this point.
I've allowed it to control me.
I've allowed it to control me. So part of taking control and being able to fix, I got two solutions, right? What do I do in the moment? But then also, what do I do so that we're not back in this place? Yeah. And so what I would say is, first of all, my attorney tells me all the time, in a right to work state, I don't know if you're listening to this, what kind of state that you're in, but a lot of states are right to work states.
Most of them.
The majority.
Most of them.
My attorney tells me all the time, in a right to work state, you can let somebody go because you don't like the color of their nail polish. I mean, that's just all there is to it. So it's about taking control. If you realize that now the gloves are off, now you got a situation where people are not getting along, maybe like the practice you're talking about, or maybe like the question that just got thrown at me that I shared a moment ago.
80% of the other practices out there that won't admit that they've got a challenge with the culture of their team. I mean,
okay, and that's a good point because I was going to bring that up. The question I threw up was from a doctor who realizes these two people on my team are not getting along.
Yeah.
But what you and I see more often than not is that's happening, but the doctor doesn't realize it because it hasn't escalated to the point where maybe a couple of people on the team are ready to come to blows, right?
Or it's happening. It's happening, and the doctor realizes it, but he's too scared or a chicken to do anything about it. That happens a lot.
Or avoiding it.
Yeah, avoid it.
And so I want you to understand, if you're listening to this and you recognize that you have an opportunity, you know what? It's possible. Okay, it's possible for you to take control, and it's not nearly as difficult as you think. Okay, don't worry about what's transpired in the past. At the end of the day, if you're a doctor and you're listening to this, or if you're not, and you're watching this, whatever, I want you to be able to take some notes. I want you to see this as possible, and we want to give you the 2 or 3 things that you need to do to be able to make it happen. However, don't beat yourself up, okay? If you're out there, ask yourself, at the end of the day, how much training have I had on conflict resolution? How much training have I had on leadership? How much training have I had on open communication?
Organizational behavior,
building a culture, all of those kinds of things. So stop beating yourself up, number 1. Number 2, realize that taking control is possible. And number 3, let us help you with some things you can do. So let's take a scenario.
You know what the best training is?
What's the best training? On the job?
On the job training.
On the job.
Get in there and make a decision.
Make a decision.
What's the story? Was it General Schwarzkopf?
That's true story. Years ago, I went to see Norman Schwarzkopf, and probably a lot of people who are watching this or listening to this don't even know who that is because I'm so old, as Cameron reminds me all the time.
Norman Schwarzkopf.
But Norman Schwarzkopf
Y'all can Google him.
Schwarzkopf was the general on the original Gulf War, the original, when George Bush was president. And one of the things he said is—
That'd be Desert Storm.
Desert Storm. He talked about how, as a young officer, he was thrown into a decision-making capacity, and he had no idea what to do. Yeah. And he walked into the base and walked into the officer's office, and the elderly guy threw him the keys and said, "Here you go, Schwarzkopf. I'm going on vacation." And he said, "Sir, I don't know what to do." He said, "Rule number one, Schwarzkopf, make a damn decision." He said, "But sir, what if I don't understand what it is I'm making a decision about?" He said, "Rule number two, see rule number one, make a damn decision." He goes, "But sir, this is my first day. I don't even know anybody on the base." He said, "Rule number three, see rule number one, make a decision. If it's the right decision, then you're a hero. If it's not the right decision, then you've learned something."
Yeah.
Either way, make a decision. And that's the bottom line. Listen, taking control is about being willing to make a decision and learning through the process. So let's take an example, and let's say that somebody who's listening right now has that scenario that I mentioned where the question was, what do I do when I've got two people who are at each other's throats and they're on this team? What do I do? Well, again, there's two opportunities. One of those is, what do you do to fix it right now? That's important, but the most important is, once I have that fixed, what do I do so that we as a group are never back in this situation ever again?
What's our culture allowing? That it's allowing these things to happen,
right?
And if they're continuing to happen, right?
So I would submit that part of answering both those questions is a precursor, and that precursor is this. Realize that the challenge you're having is not about this person or that person, and one of them's right and one of them's wrong. It's a leadership challenge. It's a challenge that involves nobody's taking control up to this point. So what do you do? I mean, I don't know that there's a right and wrong.
Make a decision.
My advice would be, take those people who are not getting together. Who are at each other's throats.
Put them in a cage.
Give them gloves.
Give them gloves.
And say, ding, ding.
Yeah.
No.
Only the strong survive around here.
I would sit them down and have them understand, you know what? You guys are not getting along. It's affecting our ability to work as a team at the highest level. It's affecting our ability to take care of patients. And I, as the captain of the ship, am not going to allow that. So here's the thing. Either we fix this or you guys both have to leave. That's it. There are no questions. That's it. Patient care, working as a team, this environment, this culture is my responsibility as the captain of the ship, and I will not tolerate where you guys are polarizing and affecting our ability to take care of the patients and each other at the highest level. So we're going to sit down. This is the step. We're going to sit down, and you guys, we're going to set some ground rules for this communication between the two of you, and I'm going to facilitate as the captain of the ship. And lay those ground rules out, right? Things like, nobody's pointing fingers, nobody's, disrespecting anybody. There's not going to be any accusations. We're going to communicate through this as adults, and I, as a captain of the ship, am going to facilitate that. It's about taking control. So step one, set that meeting. Step two, lay out the ground rules. Step three, make sure that you do not leave that meeting without a resolution. And if the resolution is we can't come to a solution, so you both got to go, you have to be committed to that as the captain of the ship, because you understand it's a lack of leadership and it's about taking control. Now, that's what you do in the moment. What do you do to make sure that you're never in this situation again?
You got to create a culture. You got to create a culture of communication.
It's about taking control.
Taking control. So if I'm in this situation, I've got Peggy mad at Janie. I'm in that situation because the culture of my business and communication is not where it needs to be. So you got to start working on your business. Number one way to do that is you got to hold them accountable for getting solutions in that communication challenge. But then you've got to have a systematic approach where you're communicating on a consistent basis. If you're not having a team meeting now, not where you come in and you air out the dirty laundry, but where you come in and you communicate about opportunities to strengthen the culture on your team, that would be the biggest takeaway, is what's going to fix it in the future. Consistent communication.
And then before that, I mean, you've already solved for the immediate situation. You've already solved that.
Right.
Now you want to come up with a way that you are never going to be in this situation again. It's about taking control. So the way to do that is, now that you fix that situation between those two, get the entire team together, have everybody together and get their input. And you guys as a group, not just simply you as the captain of the ship, but facilitate everybody's input. And you guys as a group come up with a written set of expectations. These are not do things. These are be things. If you paid attention to our podcast in the past, you've heard us communicate about this. As a group, number one, decide what are the written expectations that we're going to count on from each other. Step two, as Cameron said, is now that we have those expectations laid out, commit to a consistent meeting on a weekly basis where we're going to, I mean, I like the way you put that, air out dirty laundry. I mean, at the end of the day, if we don't air out the laundry and clean it up ourselves as a team, then it's out there for the patients to see. And, I mean, as you said not long ago, I mean, if we do a great job taking care of patients at the highest level, chances are nobody hears about that.
Yeah.
But if they walk in and smell that there's a problem between Nancy in the back and Susie at the front, the chances are really good, statistically speaking, that about 5 people are going to hear about that in the next 4 days. Now, that's true. I mean, that is just true. And so that negativity flies around all over. And if you're in a small town, I would submit it's twice as bad.
Yeah.
So, you've addressed it in the moment. Now you're working on making sure that we're not in this place ever again. It's about taking control. Get your team together, get everybody's input, decide what it is these written expectations are that we all need to have, then commit to a consistent meeting where you're going to air that out. Then
I want to add that we want to air that out directly, right? We don't want to just have a meeting where people come in and they complain or they're bitching about this one or that one. What we want to do is we want to air it out directly. So if Peggy has a problem with somebody, she needs to address it with the somebody.
Not to a third person.
Not to a third person.
Away from a meeting.
That just creates gossip and drama.
Right. And at the end of the day, I mean, that's probably why we're in this shape to begin with.
Yes.
Is whether you as the doctor and the captain of the ship realize it or not, the team knows it. They know it.
Yeah, for sure. So the takeaway number one is address the problem. Explain that we're not getting along and when it's affecting our ability to serve our patients at the highest level. That's takeaway number one. Takeaway number two.
And that's with the people who are not getting along. You have to address it in the moment and fix that before you can fix the rest of the culture.
Hold them accountable. Takeaway number two, hold them accountable for getting a solution to their challenge before they leave that communication.
And if we can't get a solution, then the solution is everybody go. Both of them go.
Yeah, got to go.
Right.
Can't stay here.
And then the third piece of that is what?
Get everyone together to create common expectations and create a consistent meeting where the team can communicate about what those expectations are.
Now, because of all of that, now you can take control. Yeah. Now, because of all of that,
that's how you take control.
You, as the captain of the ship, can actually lead because we've got written expectations. A lot of those are what we've talked about, right? If you have a challenge with somebody on the team, you're not going to take it to a third person. Whether that's the doctor, the office manager, doesn't matter. You're going to take it to that person. And in those written expectations, we've laid out how that looks. We're not going to accuse each other. We're not going to point fingers. We're not going to slap each other verbally. All of those things are written expectations that you need to have, obviously in a more higher level than what we're talking about right here, but same conversation. And now it's about taking control. Now you as the leader have sort of foundational pieces that you can actually lead. Your job is very simple now. Your job is to hold the culture by making sure that every single person on that team is holding to those written expectations. Now it's a whole different scenario. Whereas in the past, person A had a challenge with person B, they come to you. Now you have to be the judge and jury by trying to figure out, which one of them is telling me the truth. Well, they're both probably telling you the truth, but they're telling you in their own perceptions, and you don't need to be the judge or the jury in that. Now you can lead based on those written expectations. That is how you take control.
That's how you do it.
So I hope you took lots of notes, because that is a huge issue. As Cameron said, our experience is about 80%.
At least 80%.
You can do this. It doesn't matter that you've not done in the past. You can do this.
It may not be,
and you can be great at it.
Yeah. And get out of your comfort zone. Stretch out of your comfort zone so you can take control.
At the end of the day, this is your practice.
It's your
At
business.
the end of the day, you've got lots of people counting on whether or not you're successful. Take heed of that. I mean, feel that, feel the weight of that, and take control. Do this. You ready for me to close it out?
Close it down, bro.
Do this, and you can sow the seeds of happier clients, better results, and make more money.
Make more money, man.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.